With Paul Charchi, and I'm Mike Durkin, and this is Fantasy Victory Now. And Charch, two players who powered fantasy teams into the playoffs, well, they left their owners high and dry over the past 2 weeks.
Yes.
Will Peyton Manning and Jimmy Graham bounce back in Week 15?
Here's the quick answer, Mike. They're my number one quarterback and number one tight end this week in our Fantasy Victory rankings.
Oh, there you go.
So I say yes, they are going to bounce back. Let's first start with Peyton Manning. He's thrown multiple touchdowns against the Chargers, this week's opponent, in every one of his Broncos games. In the earlier meeting this year, he went for almost 300 yards and 3 scores. The Chargers secondary has been a wobbly unit all year. The only quarterbacks who have failed to throw multiple touchdowns against San Diego are E.J. Manuel, benched; Blake Bortles, rookie; Geno Smith, benched, then not benched, then benched and not benched; Alex Smith, Derek Carr, and Sean Hill. That is the dregs of NFL quarterbacking right there. Everybody else against the Chargers has averaged 272 yards and 2.6 touchdowns, so I like Peyton Manning a lot. Let's talk about Jimmy Graham. Unless the shoulder injury is just playing a lot worse than anybody knows, in which case they should just rest him, he should dominate the league's most tight end-friendly defense. Chicago's allowed the 5th most tight end yards and the 2nd most tight end touchdowns, 11, including an average over 1 tight end touchdown per game over the last 9 games.
With Cam Newton out after that bad car accident, can you start any Panthers this week?
You know, it's interesting. By happenstance, the only other game Cam Newton missed was Week 1 when the Panthers played this same exact opponent, Tampa Bay. So very coincidental that way. In that game, Derek Anderson was actually pretty competent. He threw touchdowns to Kelvin Benjamin and Greg Olsen, and I think both of those guys are playable again. Tampa's allowed the 4th most tight end yards, there's Greg Olsen, and the 4th most wide receiver touchdowns, there's Kelvin Benjamin. And meanwhile, Jonathan Stewart's coming off his best back-to-back games maybe ever, so I think you can keep playing him as well. So, yeah, I actually think you can keep starting your Panthers here. And it's not like Cam Newton has been so good that, the whole offense, goes upside down without him. Most of his play this year has been middling.
It's time for Johnny Manziel in Cleveland, but Charch, what can we expect from the Browns offense with Johnny Football at the helm?
Yeah, in a word, weirdness. A lot of variables, plays that break down both in a good way and a bad way for this offense. Probably some really bad passing and some huge opportunities when he breaks down defenses with his legs, when he extends plays by running, finds open receivers. And really, there's nowhere to go but up for the Browns players. And I'm cautiously optimistic that he'll end up netting out a decent game himself, and that his main targets, Josh Gordon and Cameron Jordan.
Not Cameron Jordan.
Not Cameron Jordan. Two totally different guys on a different team. I'd like to think that they're going to benefit from the weirdness. Look, and those guys have nowhere to go but up as well. Brian Hoyer had been so bad. Yeah.
All right, looks like the Raiders are all in with Latavius Murray finally after getting a full load of carries against the Niners. But what do you expect from Latavius Murray down this stretch of garbage games for the Raiders?
Yeah, it looks like the Raiders are all in on Latavius Murray, and I think that's probably true. He's going to get the Lions' share of the work. Mojo and Darren McFadden aren't even relevant here. So Murray's got Kansas City this week. He smoked the Chiefs a couple weeks ago when they played. 4 carries, 112 yards, and 2 scores. He had that 90-yard touchdown run. He's the only player to rush for a touchdown against the Chiefs all year. How about that? But they have, the Chiefs, given up 100-yard rushing efforts in 4 straight games. So I like him this week. But note this about Murray. After this week, he faces 2 of the toughest run defenses in the league, Buffalo and Denver, so I don't think you're going to want to start him beyond that.
All right, another week of sage advice. All of Charch's rankings are posted and updated right up until kickoff on Sunday at fantasyvictory.com.